Clash Royale is a competitive game. Much like other games, if you are willing to commit more time to it than casual players, the game offers a more competitive experience for you. Since day one in Clash Royale, there's been a league above all others, a place where the most elite of elite players battle it out to see who is truly the best. Leagues. When I refer to leagues, I'm talking about the trophy range in Clash Royale above a certain range, where the difference in level between cards is almost none, and players are only separated by skill. You could refer to it as top ladder, but for the sake of maintaining historical accuracy, I will refer to it with the names that players throughout the history of the game called it. But how far have leagues come in Clash Royale? This video is an investigation into the entire history of leagues in Clash Royale and how it has changed. Despite it being so early on in the game's progression, and many people hadn't gotten used to the game overall, the potential for competitive play was already obvious. In February of 2016, around a month after the game was soft launched, it was already obvious that players were quickly progressing their trophies, and so Clash Royale released a new arena, Legendary Arena, which would now be accessible to players who were at 3,000 trophies, since at the time a new arena would only be every 300 trophies. A jump of 1,000 trophies from Royal Arena to Legendary Arena meant that if you were at Legendary Arena, you would have considered to be a very skilled player. But it was clear that some players were annoyed that players who could have just paid to unlock legendaries were doing so much better than them since they dominated the meta. It was clear that there was still a clear level difference between players, with some players complaining that they would frequently be up against level 9 and level 10 towers while being level 8 and free to play. Additionally, with the release of Legendary Arena in early February, a new type of trophy was released, which were the Legend Trophies. This was the first time that the game had deviated from regular trophies to provide competitive players different rewards. At the time, a season lasted 14 days, and Legend Trophies were simply just overflow trophies that a player could have earned if they played past 3,000 trophies within a season. At the end of each season, players would receive a ranking on how well they did, which was simply just how many trophies above 3,000 trophies they pushed to. It's important to note that Legend Trophies provided no in-game advantage, it was simply just a flex for players who had it. At the end of every season, players would be reset to 3,000 trophies. The game was now becoming more and more competitive at the very top of ladder, with people now pushing well above 3,000 every season. But the game was also becoming boring for players who were at 3,000 trophies with no intent on pushing for Legend Trophies. As the year of 2016 went on, it was becoming an issue where low-level players were being put up against over-level players. For example, there would be instances where a level 9 player went up against a level 13 player. Both of them were above 3,000 trophies, it's just that the game had no specific matchmaking set in place above 3,000 trophies, because it was not anticipated that players as low as level 9 would be up against players who were level 13. The issue was that matchmaking, not only for players above 3,000 trophies but also below 3,000, was using a player's trophy count only without considering that levels may be higher. Therefore, it was no surprise that players were often versing people who were 2 king levels above them, and had cards which were on average 2 levels higher, because it was such a case that when someone who paid a lot of money to upgrade their cards was climbing trophies, they happened to verse someone at the same trophy range who had gotten there due to their skill. It's easy to see why players were becoming increasingly frustrated at Clash Royale. So at the end of 2016, Supercell raised the seasonal trophy reset from 3,000 to 4,000 trophies. This means that you would still be able to get into Legendary Arena at 3,000 trophies, but it was clear that the new highest league was now for players at 4,000 trophies. Players below 4,000 trophies would not be reset at the end of the season, and now you only got Legend Trophies if you climbed above 4,000 trophies. I should note truly how hard it was to progress to 3,000 trophies at this time, let alone 4,000 trophies, not only because there was a clear advantage to paying to win, but also because legendaries were often broken when launched, and players who had money or got lucky to get them in a chest often did much better. This change meant that players who reached 3,000 trophies would not be bombarded with level 12 or level 13 players immediately, and could progress a little bit through Legendary Arena, and players who were more serious and wanted to gain Legend Trophies would push all the way past 4,000 trophies. This league system continued to run till the end of 2016. However, in 2017, Supercell would completely change the way that leagues operated. In March of 2017, the way that Legendary League operated in Clash Royale was completely changed. Alongside adding new arenas, the requirement for Legendary Arena was raised to 3,800 trophies. However, players who reached 4,000 trophies would now have access to the new league system. It was initially intended for players at the end of every season to drop back to 4,000 trophies, but considering Supercell was considering adding gameplay all the way up to 6,400 trophies, this idea was scrapped so that you would only drop to the corresponding type of league and challenger. I'll explain this specifically in more detail in a bit. Leagues started at 4,000 trophies with the Challenger Leagues, starting at Challenger 1, and players could progress each category of league how they wanted. This meant that players could move up to Challenger 2, then Challenger 3, and this was the highest you could progress in the Challenger Leagues, 4,600 trophies. The next category of league was the Masters Leagues, which a player could enter by having 4,900 trophies. Master League also had 3 stages, Master 1, Master 2, and Master 3. The final category of leagues was Champions Leagues. This started from Champion at 5,800 300 trophies, then Grand Champion, and finally the new highest trophy count where Clash Royale themselves offered gameplay, Ultimate Champion, at 6,400 trophies. True competitive play could now occur above 6,400 trophies. The season was also made to last a month rather than the previous 14 days, which was a point of annoyance for some players previously, as they felt 14 days was far too short to really progress. At the end of the month, as mentioned before, it was initially planned for all players to be reset to 4,000 trophies, but then, Supercell knew that if this was the case, then at the start of the season it would be almost impossible to progress, as all the skilled players would also start at 4,000 trophies. So Supercell implemented a new method of filtration. Players would be reset based on the category of leagues they progressed to. What I mean by this is, if a player went all the way up to Challenger 3, then they would be reset to Challenger 1, since Challenger 1 was the first league in the Challenger League. Additionally, if a player progressed to Masters 3, then they would be reset to Challenger 2. And finally, if a player went all the way up to Ultimate Champion and beyond, then they would have been reset to 4,600 trophies at Challenger 3. This method of filtration was good, as it meant that players who had actually intended to grind all the way to 6,400 trophies or beyond could play against people who also wanted to reach Ultimate Champion, and it would not be that a casual Challenger 1 player was versing an Ultimate Champion worthy player. This method of filtration also allowed players who didn't want to play that much to still unlock a new chest, called the Draft Chest. I made a mention of this in my History of Chests video, but essentially, the Draft Chest was similar to a Legendary King's chest today, in that you could draft what cards you wanted. At different leagues, the draft chest had different rewards. For instance, if a player got to leagues and did not want to progress further, then at the end of every season, they would receive a Challenger 1 draft chest. I'll link a video in the description for if you're interested in specific chances, but essentially, no matter which league you play to, even if you only played the Challenger 1, you were guaranteed a very good chest. In fact, at Ultimate Champion, it was possible to get more than one legendary in a chest, which at the time was only possible in the short-lived and removed 250,000 gem tournament chest. Another very good feature that Clash Royale added in this update is that if a player sometime in the season reached 6,400 trophies and somehow dropped below that, they would still finish the season with the draft chest of 6,400 trophies. I'm just taking an example here, but if you progress to any league and drop below the trophy requirement of that league, you would still finish the season with the draft chest of the league you were able to push to. The release of leagues also meant that legend trophies would no longer accumulate for players, and this now meant that players who had legend trophies now had much more respect, as they not only had to play in the same year that the game released, but they also had to commit to play 3,000 trophies, which in the first year of the game's release was such a difficult task since everything was so new. Overall, I would say that Leagues is one of my favorite Clash Royale updates of all time. However, once again, like with the Legend League of 2016, there were still issues with overleveled players in Leagues. Supercell could not seem to solve the issue of overleveled players somehow matchmaking with extremely underleveled players. A possible reason as to why I think this was happening is because in higher leagues like Master and Champion, the levels of cards between players are often the same or similar. However, if there was a player who paid to level up their deck to an extremely high level, then they would have also faced a much more skilled player who had similar card levels, and then they would drop into the lower leagues, hence causing trouble to people in Challenger or Masters League. Leagues remained mostly unchanged for the rest of the year because it was such a good system that it would be hard for Supercell to beat it. Initially for 2018, I wasn't going to discuss Clan War Leagues as I wanted to focus on how leagues changed for 1v1 battle, but I feel like Clan War Leagues are still leagues and therefore deserve some attention. Essentially, alongside the release of Clan Wars in April of 2018, Clash Royale announced a new system of leagues that would work for Clan Wars, Clan War Leagues. There were 4 Clan War Leagues. These were in increasing order: Bronze, Silver, Gold, and Legendary. Along with this update, Supercell released War Trophies. These were pretty much just additional trophies that you could have won after also winning battles, or lost if your clan did worse compared to other clans. It was the new way that Clan War Leagues would be sorted. For instance, if your clan placed first in Clan War, you would get 100 War Trophies plus the number of wins that your clan got during Battle Day. Bronze League started at 0 War Trophies, with Bronze 2 being 200 War Trophies and Bronze 3 being 400 War Trophies. Silver League started at 600 trophies with Silver 1, and went up to 1,200 trophies with Silver 3. Gold League started at 1,500 trophies and went up to 2,500 trophies at Gold 3. And finally, Legendary League, which was when a clan hit 3,000 War Trophies. The way that the Clan War League system worked is that if your clan participated in multiple clan wars within a season, then your clan would have won the chest that was equivalent to the best league you got to. For example, if your clan played 4 clan wars and 3 of them were in Bronze League but 1 of them was in Silver League, your clan would have gotten the Silver League chest, since that was the best chest your clan got to. But it was only to players who participated in clan wars, so not everyone in the clan would have gotten it. The chests also got better the further up you went in the rankings of the league you were in. In June of 2018, Supercell changed the way that season resets work for 1v1 leagues. Once again, this was to balance matchmaking in leagues. Essentially, the new system would mean that a player would be reset to half their trophies above 4,000, instead of all being reset to the same category of league. This meant that a player at 6,000 trophies would have been reset to 5,000 trophies, since the player moved 2,000 trophies above 4,000 trophies, and that number was halved, meaning they would be reset to 1,000 trophies above 4,000. This was a much better system than previously when a player at 6,000 would have been reset to 4,600 trophies. This new system was supposed to be more gradual and meant that at the end of every month, players would once again not be versing players who were much better than them or had higher level cards. This update to leagues also increased the sudden death timer to 3 minutes for only gameplay in leagues. Additionally, a secret update that Supercell didn't even mention in their balance changes was guaranteed legendaries for players above 5,200 trophies in their draft chest. At the end of 2018, Clash Royale decided to remove legend trophies from the game completely. This was mostly due to updates to the profile section at the game, and Supercell was simply decluttering the profile. And since legend trophies were almost useless and forgotten at this point, it kind of made sense for Supercell to remove it. However, players who had legend trophies were compensated with not only a corresponding amount of gold, as in, if they had more legend trophies they got more gold, but also a limited Royal Ghost gem emote. However, in 2019, Supercell would change leagues once again. In April of 2019, Supercell added the Trophy Road to Clash Royale. It didn't have as major of an impact on leagues as the league's update of 2017, but there were many notable changes to leagues. Supercell finally added the long-awaited and heavily requested Trophy Gate, which now meant if you got to a new arena, you would not drop below the trophy requirement even if you continued to lose games. In terms of how this affected leagues, it meant that players who now reached 4,000 trophies, which was Legendary Arena, would never be able to drop from leagues. They were now in leagues forever. However, along with this update, Supercell deleted one of the greatest chests in the game's history, the draft chest. But it wasn't a complete removal, as they replaced the draft chest with several rewards as you moved up a league instead of one large reward. However, people were not happy with the removal of the draft chest. Personally, either the draft chest or the Trophy Road rewards felt almost the same to me. In fact, I preferred the Trophy Road rewards, simply because as you progressed through a league, you could get different chests and gems or gold. It wasn't restricted to a single type of chest, but I could see the reason for frustration for some players. Supercell also decreased the amount of trophies you would drop at the end of each season to 25% of trophies above 4,000 instead of the previous 50%. Again, this change was really good, since now you wouldn't lose a significant chunk of your progress at the end of every season. This new reset type also meant that once you were reset, you were able to once again unlock Trophy Road rewards, meaning that, for example, say at 4,300 trophies there was a legendary chest. If you reset down to 4,075 trophies, which is 25% of the trophies above 4,000, you could climb back to 4,300 trophies to get the same legendary chest next season. But once you claimed a reward in the season, you couldn't intentionally drop to below your requirement, as rewards would only be claimed once a season. However, one of the biggest changes for truly competitive players was the new trophy requirement for Royal Champion and Ultimate Champion leagues. Royal Champion now started at 6,600 trophies, while Ultimate Champion now started at 7,000 trophies, and players could now play competitively past this. Overall, I feel like the Trophy Road was a very good update that largely benefited leagues, but it was still a little disappointing to lose the draft chest. If only Supercell could have kept the draft chest for leagues for players at the end of every season, as well as the Trophy Road rewards, it would have been perfect, but everyone knows that this would have made the game unbalanced. In May of 2019, surprisingly, Supercell reverted the 25% trophy reset to 50% once again, as well as changing some of the Trophy Road rewards for leagues players. As the year of 2019 went on, updates to leagues slowed down, with the occasional changing of Trophy Road rewards, and with the release of new seasons every month from June, the Legendary Arena would have been the arena that matched the theme of every season. 2020 for leagues started with a roller coaster of back and forths. In February of 2020, Supercell once again reverted the 50% trophy reset to 25% once again, meaning players would now only lose 25% of their trophies at the season reset, but literally 2 seasons later in April 2020, they changed it right back to 50%. This was now the 4th time in less than a year that they've done this. 2020 for 1v1 leagues was not a super exciting one, with the occasional balance change, but following the poor release of Clan Wars 2, it's no surprise that Supercell would try to correct it, first with an updated Clan War League system. There were no changes to War Trophy requirements, but Supercell added 2 new leagues, Legendary 2, which was at 4,000 War Trophies, and Legendary 3, which started at 5,000 War Trophies, and now was the highest number of War Trophies for Clan War League. Again, this was done to try add more gameplay to Clan Wars, as well as try to offer slightly improved matchmaking for players in Legendary Leagues. At the end of 2020, Supercell also balanced the trophy gain and loss when you won or lost battles. with a tapering towards the 6,000 trophy range, in order to fix the trophy inflation that was occurring. In an attempt to fix matchmaking for Clan Wars, Supercell also made it so that a bronze player could go up against a legendary player if it meant that it was a fair matchup. You were no longer limited to the league you were in. Overall, not that significant of a year for leagues in 2020, but this was due to not only the unplanned pandemic, but also because Clan Wars 2 had taken a significant amount of time to roll out, so they could not focus on leagues as much. If 4 times wasn't enough to revert the 50% and 25% trophy reset, then it's not a surprise that once again at the start of 2021, Supercell once again decided to lower the trophy reset of leagues to 25% from 50%. Supercell would then again revert this the following season to 50% again. Keep in mind now, this is the 5th time that Supercell has done this. At the end of February in 2021, Supercell changed the matchmaking system so that king level would now finally be considered. This change was so crazy to me. Matchmaking had been an issue since 2016, and Supercell had only thought in 2021 to consider king level. The reason this was so big is because previously, there could have been over-leveled players in lower arenas causing trouble to lower-leveled players. However, the following season, Supercell changed this new matchmaking system so that it would not apply for players above 5,000 trophies, which was a little confusing to me since at around 5,000 trophies, there was a serious issue with over-leveled players. In June of 2021, there was a major change to leagues. Leagues were made to begin at 5,000 trophies, since there were 2 new arenas added past 4,000 trophies. This also meant that every league's trophy requirement increased by 1,000 trophies, meaning the Challenger Leagues now started at 5,000 trophies, and Ultimate Champion was now at 8,000 trophies. You would now also lose more trophies in earlier leagues if you lost games, which was a good change since it meant that players with an inflated trophy count would drop to a part of leagues where they were more fit for. The inflation in trophy count had occurred because it used to be that you would always gain more trophies than if you had lost, so players who had a 50% win rate would still gain trophies in the long run. Additionally, Trophy Reset was finally made to be specific for the category of league you were in. This was finally a more permanent way to regulate season resets instead of their previous poor attempts. In Challenger Leagues, Trophy Resets were reset by 50% at the end of the season, while in Master Leagues the reset would be by 40%, meaning you would have 60% of the trophies you had at the end of the previous season. And finally, in Champion Leagues, the trophy counts were reset by 30%, so you now had 70% of the trophies you had at the end of last season. It seemed that finally Supercell had found a way to balance the season resets. Throughout the rest of 2021, no major changes came to leagues. However, Supercell would once again change leagues in late 2022. In late 2022, Clash Royale would remove the league system that had been in the game since 2017, which was now the longest lasting iteration of the league system in the game's history. They replaced it with an entirely new type of way to play leagues, called Path of Legends, which is how it is today. However, Path of Legends was a much more different style of play. Instead of it being the endgame of Clash Royale, Supercell allowed you to play simultaneously on Trophy Road, as well as a new style of leagues. This new style of leagues was independent from Trophy Road, meaning that you could no longer gain trophies from playing on the new league system. Path of Legends was unlocked at 5,000 trophies, and you had the option to play the new Path of Legends or continue on the normal trophy road all the way up to the new trophy cap, which was 7,500 trophies. Above 7,500 trophies, you could no longer progress like you could in the old system, where it was possible for players to have above 8,000 trophies. On the new Path of Legends system, you started at Challenger 1 and had 10 leagues from Challenger 1 all the way up to Ultimate Champion, but instead of each league having a trophy requirement, there were now steps. Each one of these leagues was identical to their order in the old league system, meaning that its order was Challenger, then Master, then Champion leagues. Every win that you got was one step, and every loss would result in you moving down a step. There were also golden steps, which was sort of invincibility from dropping down, since when you reached the golden step, even if you lost, you would not drop a step. As you climbed the steps of Path of Legends, you reached Ultimate Champion, where there were no more steps above this point. Instead, there was a new player ranking system where you could get medals, which was similar to trophies in that you gained them when you won and lost them when you lost, and there was still a ranking system like in the old league system. At the end of every season, you would still get reset down to Challenger 1, but if you were at a higher league, you would get a higher step multiplier, so you could get back to the league you were in before the reset easier. At every league, there would also be a level cap, where even if you had cards above the level cap, your cards would be brought back down to the level cap, and if you had cards below the level cap, they would maintain their level. This meant that it was best to use your best deck on Path of Legends. There were also special rewards at each league, which got increasingly better as you progressed. In December of 2022, Clash Royale updated leagues. Leagues 7, 8, and 9 were increased by 2 steps each. These leagues in order were the Champion, Grand Champion, and Royal Champion. In March of 2023, Clash Royale increased the win multipliers to match the highest league that you reached, and later in June of 2023, during a maintenance break, Supercell fixed the issue where some players' Trophy Road rewards were resetting randomly. Additionally, while unrelated to leagues themselves, Clash Royale added 3 new arenas, meaning the new trophy cap was now 9,000 trophies. As of November 2023, no changes have come to leagues, and while the new Path of Legends system will be here for a while, I don't think that Supercell won't change leagues. This is because eventually, players will become bored of a system like leagues. While you could argue that the 2017 league system remained viable for so long, that was because Supercell was constantly updating it. I personally think that Supercell should consider changing up the playstyle of leagues. I hope you enjoyed this video, thanks for watching.